Hey everyone, it's Jason McClaren with Leadership Loading Podcast. Today we're talking about leadership and team building. My guest is Andrew Aulette. He's a resilient risk and strategy leader, startup leader, professor, doctoral candidate, and he has over 14 years experience in crisis management and resilience strategy and innovation. Great leader, great guy to be on the show today. Andrew, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Jason. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you got today, a little bit about your credentials and background?
Absolutely. So thanks for having me, Jason, again. Spent the last 14 years in the crisis management field. I started out as a firefighter and EMT, and then I kind of made my way through college at that time and ended up in defense contracting along the way after I left the fire department, and got my hands in a whole bunch of different interesting projects in the emergency management, crisis management space, serving clients in homeland security, health, and public safety and defense, so many different areas. Ended up getting into teaching as well as a professor at a couple of universities, and ended up getting my hands into some geospatial data analytics work, a lot of strategy work, a lot of innovation work along the way. And here I am.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we have very similar backgrounds. I started as a firefighter in the Air Force and got out, did that privately, and then jumped into the emergency management, disaster management field. So very similar backgrounds. And we were talking earlier about our doctoral paths, and I know you're a couple of years ahead of me, but I'm starting mine in a couple of weeks, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I think one of the things you can relate to, Jason, is how the fire department really teaches you a lot of really good skills. And I think being in the fire department, it really kind of created the leader who I am today. And I'm excited to talk about that.
Definitely. I think that also lends to your, being an instructor type thing, because that continuous learning as a firefighter, I think that's probably why I do it too, is, we're always learning, but we like to teach other people also. So with that, can you tell us what the characteristics of good resilient leadership is?
Sure. So I like to think of things super simplistically and in things of three. So characteristics of a good resilient leader is really putting people first. That's my number one core principle of a resilient leader. No lip service on this. I've been doing a lot of talking and about leadership on this lately, and I think oftentimes we see leaders go out there and they say, hey, people first, and there's no action behind it. So I think by putting people first, you're really taking care of each other. And this means that you have to ensure the well-being of your people way before a crisis event, right? So like for me personally, when I'm working with my teams and working with a whole bunch of different people, I encourage that openness, transparency, trust, humility, and accountability. Those are 5 things I always want to make sure my team knows that are kind of embedded in my DNA, core values. And by kind of putting people first, you're really not only showing them that you care about them, but you're trying to get an understanding of their capabilities, their skills, their stressors. You're really kind of learning who they are and what they stand for. So as a leader, putting people first means understanding that team chemistry, because if you understand that team chemistry, it's going to lead to operational chemistry during a bad day or before a bad day or after a bad day. So with the people first mentality, I like to think of myself as a quarterback, right? When I'm leading these teams, I don't think I'm the only one that makes up the team. I am one of many. I am encouraging the team to be stronger, faster, better at what they're doing. I'm guiding them to what touchdown can look like. I'm helping them achieve that touchdown mentality, that success. I'm helping them around with the environment to make sure that other team members are exhibiting the same type of chemistry. And if they're not, move them around to a different position to see if they'll succeed in that. So to me, number one, people first. Number two, communication. Often, efficient, and effective communication. I think a lot of times, from a resilient leadership perspective, you really don't hear everybody's voice. You hear what you want to hear. And opening up, communicating effectively, communicating often, making sure that everybody has a voice is really important, because that's where those new ideas come to the table. That's how you go over, under, around, and through barriers. That's how you set objectives. You set clear objectives, and you leave politics at the door when lives are at stake, because you have to put lives over everything. Number three, responsibility. Good leadership takes responsibility. People make mistakes, own it. That's what I always say. Just own it. It happens. We're all human. And when mistakes happen, move on and improve. And we know from our days in the fire department, Jason, that, stuff just doesn't go according to plan. And there's never a dull moment. Somebody just goofs up. Something just goes wrong. And you don't just stand there and do nothing about it. You move on and you quickly come up with a solution that works. So taking responsibility if something goes wrong, and then fixing it. So from a leadership perspective, just understanding that all decisions that are made on the team fall under your purview. That means the expectations you set, what I talked about earlier, openness, transparency, trust, humility, honesty, accountability, should be ingrained in your team. So if your team understands those expectations, there won't be malintent if something goes wrong. It's an accident. Accidents happen, so you just own it. So good, resilient leader in my eyes, based on three things: putting people first, good communication, taking responsibility.
Definitely. I agree with that. Being a firefighter and even in the military and private sector, things don't go to plan. So you got to be resilient and be able to flex when needed and use those three tips to, be successful. So with that, that's all good for being an individual leader. So how do we make our teams resilient and solid?
Yeah, for sure. So from my standpoint, a good resilient team is built on, again, three core aspects: diversity, providing support, and contribution and communication. So I think that building a good resilient team, you need to have diversity in the background and skills on your team. You need that mix of high energy individuals with lower energy individuals. You need that positive and negative attraction, because at the end of the day, you're building a team that can respond to anything that's thrown their way. You don't want on your team 10 people on a 12-person team that just specialize in communications when you're dealing with crisis management incidents. You need that diversity and that different skill set and different background to kind of balance that team out and deliver results. So when I'm talking about diversity, I'm talking about the skill sets and the backgrounds and just bringing different experiences to the table. And they don't all necessarily have to be 100% crisis or emergency management focused or resilient discipline focused. I know plenty of people that are super successful in crisis management situations and have limited crisis management background. They may have a little bit, and that goes a long way. But ultimately, their background is composed of something completely different, and that's what makes them a valuable contributing member to the team. Second piece, support. Every team member needs to show support to the team. And what I mean by that is, resilience people, there are good days, there are bad days, like anything in life. But when a crisis happens, You need to be able to support each other around you. You need to understand when team members are stressed out. They can't do the job. They're worn down. You need to understand when team members need help. You need to be able to kind of pick them up and offer that support to get the job done. So not only from a mental health perspective, but also from a getting the job done perspective, you need to show that support. Number 3, contribution and communication. Folks need to contribute in a meaningful way, and they need to show impact. And that's what really drives a lot of people, knowing that what they're doing is making some sort of difference. And I'm not talking about changing the world. I'm talking about little mini impactful events that just help show that, hey, what I'm doing is contributing to the community. And along those lines, just open communication on the team. You can't have teams that don't want to communicate to each other. You can't have teams in the middle of a crisis that don't want to share updates that could be critical to other people on the team. I'm a fan of over communicate during a crisis. Give me the kitchen sink. Tell me everything that's going on, and I'll make a judgment call. And that's the same with any team. Any team, they'll take this information in and they'll be like, okay, that's good info. That's good intel. That's good stuff to know just for background information. So if you don't have those comms lines open, you're not going to be able to contribute at the end of the day. So I touched on diversity, support, and contribution and communication as 3 key components that make up really good resilient teams.
Definitely, I think that's most important even nowadays with, everyone wearing multiple hats. You want people on your team that have multiple skill sets or are not all pigeonholed into one thing. So with that, yeah, blending in your team is one thing. And then I was looking at your website, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I like that you guys do blended learning, and I've always been a proponent for blended learning. So can you explain that for the people that may not know what that is?
For sure. So when I'm talking about blended learning, I'm meaning different types of engagement activities for the audience that's receiving the training. So traditional learning and stuff that we've been doing for decades involves bringing people together, delivering content, having opportunity for interaction. But there's kind of a new method of training that's gaining a lot more attention, and it involves breakout sessions in the training to collaborate in small groups. It involves group work. It involves bringing in technology to further engage different types of individuals. Today, we're in an age where we have so many different generations in the workforce. We have everything from millennials to baby boomers to Gen Xers to just so many different types of learners that are in the workforce. And we need to be able to adapt our learning content to how these generations best learn. So for me, I teach in academia like we kind of talked about in the beginning. And I have a generation of students that have attention spans that are 15 to 18 minutes. And after that, I lose them. Classes are 45 minutes to 3 hours. And I can't be delivering content for that first 45 minutes spent, or I'll lose them if I'm just delivering content that entire time. So actually the basis for blended learning and how kind of my company looks at it is that you really need to split up training into microbursts of energy. So you take training content, you adapt it. You have 10 minutes of direct content delivery followed by 10 to 15 minutes of group work followed by 5 minutes of individual work, and you come back together. And the best part about blended learning is I touched on this for about a minute is the technological aspect. Nowadays, there are so many opportunities for gaming in the crisis management and resilience field. There's so many opportunities for augmented reality and virtual reality too. So when you're bringing in blended learning techniques, it doesn't have to be 50% lecture, 50% technology. It's actually pertaining to the type of delivery of the training and how it's being delivered to really captivate multiple different audiences and get the most bang for your buck out of the training.
Definitely. And as we've seen in the emergency management field, you have to do that blended learning. We have a lot of online capabilities, but the people taking these classes really want some type of blended learning where they're actually doing hands-on and breaking up that training. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, and Jason, and what we're probably also seeing is by doing blended learning, you're actually increasing the retention rate of information. And I mean, you don't want to have a training where you're getting nothing out of it. And the best part about blended training is that there are so many studies out there of how effective blended training can be. And what that means for a company or an organization, if you adopt blended learning techniques, you're seeing the return on investment a lot sooner, and you're more effectively engaging the audience that's receiving the blended training. So it's a really good situation for any type of business investment.
Definitely. All right, so we touched on your company a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's called Data Bulb Imagineering Labs?
You got it. So it's Data Bulb by Imagineering Labs, and the company focuses on advanced crisis management data, anything from data strategy to using data in training to more efficiently train your staff to geospatial data analytics and visualization.
Awesome. And how would people reach out to you if they wanted to learn some more?
So people can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or they can email info@databulb.co.
Great. And Andrew, I always ask my guests, what is your 1-minute leadership tip if you had to do an elevator pitch for leadership?
So I always say you need a really good quarterback as a leader, but you need better running backs and linesmen or women. A quarterback is not good by themselves. A quarterback is great because of those around them. So I say, think like a quarterback.
Good deal. I agree. Got to look at the big picture and have your plans out there, but be adaptable to whatever the other team's doing. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Andrew, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for giving us some of your knowledge, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thanks, Jason. I really appreciate the time.